I will say good morning. I'm sorry that I can't be there with you in person, but an incredible schos Baruch Hashem to be able to continue our limud together. Today's daf is Ayin Gimel 73, and we are picking up on Ayin Beis Amud Beis 72b, 13 lines up from the bottom. So the Gemara says as follows: Amar Rav Katan harodef nitan latzila benafsho. If a katan, a minor, is running after someone to try to kill them, the halacha is you're allowed to kill the katan to prevent him from going ahead and killing someone else. So the logic over here, so again, Rav Huna's logic is that a katan, a minor, doesn't need hasra, because obviously hasra, warning, requires das, requires intellect. The katan doesn't have das, so the fact that you're allowed to go ahead and kill a katan who's running after someone else indicates to us that a rodef in general, right, a rodef doesn't need hasra. Whether the rodef is an adult or a minor, someone who's running after someone else to kill them, the perpetrator, right, the attempted murderer there's no obligation of hasra. You can kill him without any kind of warning. So if Chistis is the kasha to Rav Huna, Yatsa Rosha ein nogin bo lefi shein doch nefesh mipnei nefesh. So an interesting case here. What happens if halacha l'maisa, a woman's giving birth and the baby begins to come out and the mother's life is at risk? So now let's say, again, the only way to save the mother is to kill the child, to kill the baby. So the halacha is once the head has come out of the mother, you're not allowed to kill the baby in order to go ahead and save the mother's life. Why shein docha nefesh mipnei nefesh? Because at that point, who's to say that the mother's life is more important than the baby's life? Va'amai, but why is that? Rodefu, the baby is a rodef. Again, obviously not a premeditated rodef, but the baby is a rodef. The baby is actively putting the mother's life in danger. To which the Gemara says, Shaini hasam demishmaya karat tefillah. It's different over here. Why? Because lemaisa, again, it's not a premeditated act from the baby, right? At the end of the day, this is coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So because, again, you can't call the baby a rodef. A rodef requires intentionality. A rodef requires kavanah. This is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So name is Hayele. So the Gemara says, let's bring a support to Rav Huna. Rodef, shahaya rodef, achar haver lahargo. So if Reuven was running after Shimon to kill Shimon, Omer lo, we say to Reuven, Re'ei she'Yisraelhu. What are you doing? What are you running after Shimon? Shimon is another Yid, he's another Jew. Uben brisu, v'atorah amra sholvech dama adam ba'adam dama yishafach. And the Torah says that ultimately, if someone's trying to kill someone else, you're allowed to kill the attempted killer. So Amra Torah hatsel damo shalzeh b'damo shalzeh. We're allowed to save Shimon by killing Reuven. So again, the point over here is, interestingly enough, is under normal circumstances, when you have to give hasra, so there's the warning that's issued, and then there's like a verbal, almost like response on the part of the perpetrator. I hear you, but I'm doing it anyway. Interestingly enough, this doesn't record any need for a verbal response, which would seem to indicate that a rodef does not need hasra, does not need any kind of warning. To which the Gemara says, no, hahi Rabbi Yehudahi. Reflects a different opinion. That's Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rabbi Yehuda say? The Rabbi Yehuda Omer chaver ein tzarech hasra. In general, someone who is well versed, the Talmud Chacham doesn't require hasra. Why not? Right? The Talmud Chacham doesn't have to be like the Gadol Hadar. Just someone who you know has Judaic information doesn't require hasra. Why? Shinlov nitna hasra el lahavkin ben shogeg lemezid. Because hasra in general is only there to see if someone knows the difference, to distinguish between someone who's an accidental perpetrator versus intentional. When it comes to murder, that everyone knows you're not allowed to murder, there's no hasra that's going to be necessary. Tashma, rodef shay rodef achar chaver lahargo. If someone, right, so again, Reuven was running after Shimon to kill him. Omer lo re'eshi Yisraelu ben brisu v'atorah amra shovech tama ada ba'ada dama yishafach. So he said to Reuven, what are you doing? Shimon is a Yid. Why are you running after him? He's a member of the tribe, a member of the covenant. And the Torah says that if you try to kill someone, you're allowed to kill the attempted murderer. To which the Gemara says, Amar yodea nishu kain potter. Right, Alminas ani osekain chayiv. See, interestingly enough, if halacha l'maisa, the perpetrator Reuven says, "I'm going to do it anyway," he's going to be chayiv. So l'maisa, again, that shows that a rodef does need hasra. So we'll say, so we're in this interesting kind of matzav over here, where so does a person who is attempting to kill someone else, is there a need for hasra in that situation or not? To which the Gemara says, no, that's a different case. That case is different. That case is talking about a situation where, let's say, we're on one side of the river, and on the other side of the river, we see Reuven trying to kill Shimon. So there's absolutely no way for us to intervene and to prevent that from happening. Ma'ika. So what recourse do we have? The boy isui lebeidina. So we'll have the opportunity, if Reuven unfortunately successfully kills Shimon, we'll be able to bring Reuven to Beis Din. Since it's going to have to come to Beis Din, Beidina boy hasra. And Beis Din, obviously, to adjudicate anything in a Beis Din, everyone is going to agree there's going to be a need for hasra. Ibai, some of the other possibility is, or Rav Huna could say, go back to original Rav Huna, that Allah I follow the opinion that machtarasa zoi hasra, which is how we ended yesterday's daf. That if somebody's tunneling to break into someone's house, that's the hasra. You don't need any hasra. You understand exactly what you're ready to do. You understand that the householder is gonna stay. He's going to fight to preserve his property. And if you're still tunneling in there, that means you're ready to kill him. And if you're ready to kill him, he has every halachic right to kill you, and there is no need for hasra. So bottom line, how do we pass him? Because it's actually quite interesting. So just to show you the genesis of this, right? This discussion began with, let's say there's a katan, right? Katan is running after Reuven to kill him. So Rav Huna said that halacha l'maisa you could kill the katan. Now the fact that you could kill the katan, what does that show? That a rodef doesn't need hasra'ah. That when someone's about to kill someone else, you're allowed to kill them even without giving them formal warning. The Gemara then quotes a second opinion as well that says that a rodef does need hasra'ah. How do we paskin? This is very interesting. So the Rambam paskins in Hilchos Rotseach, Perak Aleph, Halacha Zayin. The Rambam writes as follows. He says, "Aval rodif acher chaver lehargo. Afilim haya rodif katan harei yisom mutzuvan lahatzila nidaf miyad rodif. Afilim benafshal shal rodif." The Rambam says like this: Halacha means if you see someone pursuing someone to kill them, the halacha is you have to step in and you have to save the pursued party. You have to kill the attempted killer. Now, interestingly enough, the Rambam makes no mention of hasra, which then leads the Kesef Mishnah to say, Kasavar rodef ein tzarach hasra lo shna gadol v'lo shna katan. So the Kesef Mishnah says, you see from here that the Rambam holds that a rodef does not need hasra. Whether the rodef is a gadol, whether he's a katan, no hasra is necessary. Incredible. All right, to both say Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph 73a the Mishnah. Ve'eloin shematzilin osam benafshon. So these are the people who, if they're about to commit this crime, a particular crime, will fill in the blank with which crimes, you're allowed to go ahead and prevent the commission of the crime by killing the perpetrator or the attempted perpetrator. What are they? So the Gemara says, number one, harodif achar chaver lahargo. Okay, so case number one is Reuven's pursuing Shimon. Reuven's pursuing Shimon. You're allowed to kill Reuven in order to prevent him from killing Shimon. Next, the Gemara says, achar zachar, or let's say Reuven's running after Shimon to perform an act of sodomy on Shimon. So ultimately, you're allowed to kill Reuven to prevent that from occurring as well. Let's say Reuven is running after, attempting to violate a woman who is betrothed. So again, halach l'maisa, you're allowed to kill Reuven to prevent him from doing that as well. Aval, interesting enough, harodif achar behema. Let's say Reuven is running after an animal because he wants to commit an act of bestiality. So again, obviously it's wrong. It's a chiyav misa. But because there's not another human being impacted by that. Okay, so the animal is going to be impacted by that. But that's going to be between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Reuven. We don't get involved in that. We're not going to kill Reuven to prevent him from committing an act of bestiality. Or, Mechal as Shabbos, V'ovid Kochavim, V'ovid Avadas Kochavim, Eimatzilin Osam Benafshan. Similarly, again, if we see that Reuven is about to be Mechal Shabbos, so again, that's also Chiyav Misa, but there's not another impacted party with that, another human being that's impacted by that, so we're not going to kill Reuven to prevent him from being Mechal Shabbos, or for that matter, to prevent him from worshipping Avodah Zarah. Incredible. Says the Gemara, Tanabanon, Minayin l'rodev achar chavero l'hargo shenitan lahatzil b'nafsho. So the says, by the way, we talk about this concept, but where do you know it from? How do I know that if Reuven is running after Shimon to kill Shimon, that I'm allowed to kill Reuven before he does anything to Shimon? Where do I know that's from? Talmud Lomar, lo samod al dam reyacha. The pasuk says literally, do not stand on your friend's blood. So in other words, which the Gemara's understanding over here, I see that Chas Shalom, Reuven's trying to kill Shimon. Don't sit idly by while Shimon is going to go ahead and be murdered, but rather, again, go ahead and take action and prevent Reuven from killing Shimon. The Gemara says, one second, that's not what that pasuk is for. That pasuk is needed for something else. I need that pasuk for something else. What do I need it for? How do I know that if I see my friend, if I see another Jew drowning in the water, or an animal is dragging him away, or is being attacked by robbers, I don't have the right to stand idly by. I have to jump in and try to help. Now, happens to be, this is a fascinating discussion in general about what level of danger I am obligated to put myself in order to save someone else. Like, let's say I see Ruvain drowning, but I'm not a strong swimmer. Or I see Ruvain being attacked by a lion, and again, I don't have any weaponry or anything. So there's much to talk about with it, but the idea that the Gemara is trying to espouse over here is, if you see someone in mortal danger, you can't just simply say, not my problem. Lo samar adam re'echa, you have to jump in. Talmud Lomar, Lo Samar Adam Re'echa. The Gemara says, so we just use that pasuk Lo Samar Adam Re'echa to teach us that if I see, right, Shimon being pursued by Ruvain, that I'm allowed to go ahead and kill Ruvain to prevent him from killing Shimon. The Gemara says, that's not what the pasuk teaches me. The pasuk teaches me that if I see my friend in mortal danger, I can't stand idly by. I have to go ahead and jump in and try to help him. Right? So which one is the pasuk used for? To which the Gemara says, you're right. The pasuk of Lo Samar Adam Re'echa really means that if I see my friend in mortal danger, I can't stand idly by. I have to go ahead and I have to step in and I have to try to save him. He's drowning, I have to try to get him. He's being attacked by an animal, by robbers, I have to try to help him. So where do I know that if Ruvain is pursuing Shimon, that I'm allowed to kill Ruvain in order to go ahead and save Shimon? Where do I know that from? We learn that from a Kavachomer from Na'ara Hamurasa. What's the Kavachomer? Ma Na'ara Hamurasa shelo ba'el lepogma. So again, when a man is attacking an Na'ara Hamurasa, so the assumption over here is that it's not a threat to life. What he's doing over here is he's trying to violate her. Now, it happens to be, I just want to point out that in Halacha L'Maisa, we view that when a man tries to violate the woman, we see that as sakanas nefashos. We see that as sakanas nefashos. But the Gemara is kind of talking in the abstract over here, that when a man's coming to violate the woman, lav dafka, his intention is not to chas v'shalom kill her. His intention is to take advantage of her. So the Gemara says like this, but yet with all of that, even though again, his intention, quote unquote, is to violate her, not to kill her, but yet the Torah says, you're allowed to kill the guy to prevent him from violating the Na'ara Murasa. So the Gemara says, so again, if a man is trying to violate an Na'ara Murasa, we're allowed to kill him to prevent him from violating her. So all the more so, the Gemara says, then all the more so when I see Ruvain running after Shimon to kill him, right? In the Na'ara Murasa, so Ruvain's running after the Na'ara Murasa to violate her. And yet the Torah says, even in that case, you're allowed to kill Ruvain to prevent him from violating the Na'ara Murasa. All the more so if I see Ruvain running after Shimon to kill Shimon, of course I'm allowed to go ahead and kill Ruvain to prevent him from doing so. To which the Gemara says, one second, you can't put someone to death on the basis of a kal v'chomer. That's not how halacha works. So the Gemara says, debate Rabbi Tana. So in the yeshiva of Rebbe, they said the following. You're right, it's not a kal v'chomer, it's a hekesh. Now, we'll say hekesh happens to be a juxtaposition within a pasuk. So that's an exegetical principle. So the Gemara says, Tana hekeshu, ki kasha yakum ish areu uratzcho nefesh. So remember, this is the pasuk of Na'ara HaMe'urasa. And this is talking about, again, if halacha l'maisa, the Na'ara is violated, so the halacha is so the pasuk says, V'la Na'ara lo sasa davar, ela Na'ara chet maves. Obviously, the Na'ara didn't do anything, right? So she's the victim. Therefore, ki kasher yakum ish areo uritzacho nefesh kina davar hazeh. Because Na'ara Murasa is like a case where someone attempts to kill someone else. So what does that mean? What does that mean? So the Gemara says, so what exactly are we learning out from Rotzeach to Na'ara Murasa? To which the Gemara says, you're right. See, it sounded like we're trying to learn out something from Na'ara Murasa, or I should say, we're trying to learn out something from Rotzeach to Na'ara Murasa. It turns out that no, we're actually learning out something from Na'ara Murasa and applying it to Rotzeach. What are we applying? Listen to this. The Gemara says, Lamad v'nimsa makish Rotzeach Na'ara Murasa. The pasuk itself is creating a hekesh, a juxtaposition or a comparison between Na'ara Murasa and Rotzeach. How so? Ma Na'ara Murasa nitin latzila benafsho. So just like in Na'ara Murasa, you're allowed to go ahead and kill the attempted violator, the attempted rapist. You're allowed to kill him to prevent him from violating the Na'ara Murasa. So to Rotzeach, nitan latzila benafsho. Ultimately, and so to Rotzeach, you're allowed to kill him, you're allowed to kill the attempted murderer. So we'll say, interestingly enough, it turns out, the Torah says explicitly, right, as we're going to see, that halacha l'maisa, if a man's trying to violate the Na'ara Murasa, you could kill him. And then the Torah juxtaposes Na'ara Murasa with Rotzeach to teach us that just as you could kill the attempted violator by the Na'ara Murasa, so too you could kill someone who's trying to kill another individual. Incredible. So Na'ara Murasa minalan, gufa minalan, I know by Na'ara Murasa herself that you're allowed to kill the man who is attempting to violate violate her. Kidisanya, as we learned, Kidisayin de Rabbi Shmuel. The term de Rabbi Shmuel, ve'ein moshia la. The pasuk, when it speaks about the Nara, talks about that she's violated, in the field, right? She cried out, and there's no one there to save her. So the Gemara says, Hayesh moshia la b'chol davar shiachal la hoshia. What do you see from here? That if there is someone there to save her, if there is someone there to help her, he has the obligation to help her with whatever means are at his disposal, which includes even killing the man who's trying to violate her. Incredible. Segufa, minayin l'roetz chaveo shu tovea benar ochaya garas all this by our love shu chayev lo tzio. So says the Gemara, how do you know? How do I know that if I see my friend drowning in the river, or chas v'shalom again a wild animal dragging him away, or robbers are coming to take him, right, or to attack him? How do I know shu chayev lo tzilo? I'm obligated to step in. I'm obligated to step in and try to help. Talmud lomar lo samod al dam re'echa. The pasuk says, "Do not stand on your friend's blood." So we'll say, first of all, just a tremendous idea about what it means to be part of Klal Yisrael. What is to be part of Klal Yisrael is if you see someone in trouble, you have an obligation to act. You see someone in distress, it's not just enough to go ahead. By the way, if you notice again, it doesn't say the Gemara just take out your tefillin and daven. Of course, you take out your tefillin and daven, but in addition to that, roll up your sleeves and do something. Someone is in trouble. It's not enough to krechts, and it's not enough to feel sad, and it's not even enough just to daven. If there is something that I could do physically to help ameliorate and somehow address the pain, difficulty, suffering of another, that is my sacred biblical obligation. Incredible. That's the achrayus that we have for one another. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Do we learn it out from here? We have a different source. Mehasam nafka. We're not from different pasuk. What does the pasuk say? Avedas gufa minayin. So I'll say, how do I know? Now, how do I know that? Now, remember, there's a concept of hashavas aveda. So hashavas aveda means, right, Reuven loses his wallet. I find his wallet and I have an obligation to return it. How do I know that if a person is in danger of losing his self, literally, he's in mortal danger. He's drowning. The wild animal, the robbers. How do I know that I'm obligated to step in and try to help? So the Gemara says, Talmud lomar v'hashevoso lo. So the way the Gemara is darshaning it is v'hashevoso lo means you have to again return lo. You have to return him to him. And if his self is in danger of being lost, you have to do what you can in order to return him to him. So the Gemara says, Tamla Rashivosalo, Ime Hasam, one second. So if you learn out from there, Hava Mina Hanimili Benafshe, Aval Mitrachu Migar Ogure Emalo. So I would have thought like this, you're right, if it was just from Vashivosalo, I would have thought, okay, I'm obligated to help. So if I could help, I'll help. But I'm not obligated to round up other people, or to hire people, or to spend resources to try to help Ruvain. Kamash Malon, the pasuk comes along and says, so Vashivosalo almost teaches me the obligation that if I see someone in distress, I have to do what I can in order to return their self to them, which is also profound on an emotional level as well. I see someone in a state of emotional stress, an obligation to do what I can to help return their self to them. And then again, Lo Sara Adam Reacha teaches me that even if I can't do it myself, I have to hire people, I have to spend money, I have to round up chevra, I have to do whatever I can in order to help the person in trouble. Incredible. Tan Rabbanon. Echad harodev achar chaver lahargo ve'echad hazachar ve'achar nara murasa. So again, whether I see Ruvain running after Shimon to kill Shimon, or I see Ruvain running after Shimon to sodomize him, or I see Ruvain running after Nara murasa to violate her, ve'echad chayve misos bezdin, or I see Ruvain going to go ahead and, let's say, violate someone for whom there is a chiyuv misas bezdin, a death penalty. Or v'achar chayve krisos, or I see Reuven running after someone to violate them who's a chiyuv krisos. What's the halacha? Matzilin also benafsho. In all of these cases, I could kill Reuven to prevent him from violating. So the Gemara says, interestingly enough, Amar lekoin gadol, ugrusha v'chalutza lekoin hedyot, ein matzilin also benafsho. But if a kohen is going to have relations with a grusha or a chalutza, right? I should say differently. If a kohen gadol is going to go ahead and have relations with an almana, or a regular kohen is going to have relations with a grusha v'chalutza, so remember again, these are prohibited, but it's prohibited by a lav. It's a prohibition. I can't kill the kohen in order to prevent him from going ahead and having relations with this woman, even though it is forbidden. So the Gemara says, "Nevda ba'avera in matzilin also benafsho." So this is actually an interesting halacha. If, let's say again, Reuven already committed the avera. Let's say he already did it, and now he wants to repeat it. So the halacha is we can't kill him. We can't kill him for that. Now we'll discuss exactly why that is. We'll have to see what that means. The Gemara says, Yesh la Moshia, ein matzilin also benafsho. So this is interesting. If halacha l'maisa, let's say by Nara Murasa, she's about to be violated, and there's a way to save her without killing Ruvain, then of course we have to take advantage of that opportunity. In other words, killing the perpetrator is only the last resort to prevent the commission of the crime. But if there is another way, there is another method to stop Ruvain from violating the Stara Murasa or any of these other cases, or let's talk about Nara Murasa, then Allah are obligated to avail ourselves of that other mechanism. Rabbi Yehuda says, Af ha'omeres henichulo shelo yehargeno. This is interesting. Rabbi Yehuda says like this: what happens if Ruvain's about to violate Nara Murasa? Nara Murasa says, leave him alone. I'm afraid that if he doesn't violate me, he's going to kill me. What happens in a case like that? Halacha l'maisa, so what do you do? So Rabbi Yehuda says, if the Nara Murasa says, leave him alone, let him do what he's going to do because I don't want to run the risk of being killed, then ultimately Rabbi Yehuda says, we listen to her. We listen to her. Now the Gemara says, where do you know that from? Amar Krav la na'ara lo sasa davar. Ein la na'ara chet maves. So Rabbi says, interestingly enough, now the Gemara says, Minhani Mili is, how do we know all of these aforementioned halachas? So the Gemara darshans this pasuk in a very interesting way. So the pasuk that the Gemara is quoting over here is by Nara Murasa, but the Gemara is applying it to a number of different scenarios. So the pasuk says, don't do anything to the Na'ara, because the Na'ara has no culpability. So the Gemara says, interestingly enough, Na'ara is written in the pasuk chaser. It's written without the hay. So it can be read as Na'ar. So what does that teach me? Na'ar, zeh. That refers to the case that if Reuven is running after Shimon to sodomize him, that Allah Chalamaisa, we could kill Reuven in order to prevent him from doing that to Shimon. Na'ara refers to Nara Murasa. We see Reuven about to violate Nara Murasa. We're allowed to kill him to prevent him from violating her. Chet, what does Chet refer to? Elu chai krisos. I see Reuven about to have relations with a person for whom there is a chi of kares. You could kill him to prevent him from doing that. Right? Maves, right? Elu chai misos bezin. This refers again to relationships that have a chi of misas bezin. I could kill Reuven to prevent him from doing that. Kol hani lamali. So why do I need all of these cases? To which I'll tell you why. Tzrichi, because of Rachmana na'ar mishum delav arche. I would have said, why can't I go ahead and kill Reuven before he sodomizes Shimon? Because that's abnormal. That's not normal. So because that's an abnormal event, therefore again I could kill Reuven for preventing him from doing that. Aval na'ara the orche emolo, but na'ara, as much as it's an act of violation, but the act itself, in other words, the act of bia itself is a quote-unquote normative act. So perhaps, again, Reuven can't be killed proactively for attempting to do that. So therefore, again, the pasuk needs to teach me na'ara, that no, even if he attempts to violate the na'ara murasa, he could be killed in order to stop him. Because of Rahman na'ara mishum dekapagim law. Furthermore, again, if it would have just said na'ara, I would have said the reason you're allowed to go ahead and kill a man kill Reuven before he violates na'ara murasa is because if he violates her, pagam ba means he blemishes her, which is not only a reference to physical damage, but is also a reference potentially to status damage. Because now if she's not a basula, so ultimately, again, that has other potential marriage ramifications for her as well. Rashi says over here, pagim la bibesulin umagana al baila. Rashi says over here it could also potentially chas v'shalom damage her marriage, that her husband may interact differently with her as a result of all of this as well. So the Gemara says, Aval nar delo kapagim emula, but maybe in a case of sodomy, where again, quote unquote, there's no pagima, quote unquote, there's no damage. In other words, of course, there's damage, but you understand there's no there's no status damage, and there's no necessarily relationship damage to anyone else. Perhaps you couldn't kill Reuven in order to stop him from sodomizing Shimon. Therefore, the pasuk has to say no. You even could kill Reuven if he's attempting to sodomize Shimon. Because of Rachmana Hani, and if the Torah would have just said Nara and Zachar, so far we have again, if Reuven's attempting to violate Nara Murasa, you could kill him to prevent him from doing so. He's trying to sodomize Shimon, you could prevent him from doing so. So if the Torah would have just said these two, because of Rachmana Hani, we'll say Amid Beis, Mishum Dahai Lav Orchehu, Vahai Kapagim La. So Na'ar because that's abnormal, and Na'ara because, again, it impacts her status. That's why you could proactively kill Reuven before he perpetrates. Aval shar rayos dor chayu v'lo nafish pegamayu imalo. Maybe other arayos, where ultimately again, it's quote unquote normal. That always means it's normal. It's a normative act of bia, and the ramifications, the pegima, it doesn't blemish quote unquote status wise or relationship wise as much. Perhaps I would not be able to kill Reuven to prevent him from doing so. To which the Gemara says, "Kasev Rachmana chet." Therefore, Torah says, no, if Reuven is about to engage in a relationship that is a chiyuv, that is an arayas, we're allowed to kill him to prevent him from doing so. Because of Rachmana Chet, Hava mina filu chayve lavin. And if Torah would have just said Chet, I would have said, well then, maybe if I see Reuven about to engage in a forbidden relationship that's quote unquote only forbidden by love, perhaps I should be able to kill Reuven for that as well. Because of Rachmana Maves. Torah says, no, the only time you could proactively kill Reuven is if he's about to engage in a relationship which is punishable by death. Because of Rachmana Maves, Havamina Chayve Misos based in Chayve Krisos Lo. If it would have just said Maves, I would have said, oh, what does Maves mean? Maves means Chayve Misos based in. Only relationships that are punishable by Misos based in. Right? Chayve Krisos, not. Because of Rachmana, Chet. Therefore, the Torah says Chet, which comes to include Chayve Krisos as well. So the Gemara says, "V'lichtov Rachmana Chet Maves v'lo boy nar v'nara." So if that's the case, just let the pasuk say it this. Let the pasuk say Chet and Maves. And if it says Chet and Maves, what does that mean? That means any relationship or any act which is punishable either by misas bezdin, death penalty by bezdin, or kares, you're allowed to kill the perpetrator as he attempts to perpetrate the crime. Now, if you would say that, that would automatically include nara morasa and zachar, an attempted sodomy. It would include both of those. So just leave out nar, or leave out nara, and just say chet and maves. And I would know that if Reuven is trying to do something, attempting to do something that carries with it either a death penalty by bezdin or a chiyuv kares, you're allowed to proactively kill Reuven to prevent him from perpetrating the crime against another human being. The Gemara says, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You could do that. That would make sense. So why does it say it? So we'll say, see, here's the difference. Remember, there's a danger. What's the danger? The danger is like this. If it would have omitted nar and na'ara, and it would have just said chet and maves, what that would tell me is like this. If Reuven is attempting to do anything that carries with it a death penalty, either by bezdin or by kares, you could kill him to prevent him from doing that. Well, based on that, I would have said that if Reuven is about to be mechalel Shabbos, I could kill him to prevent him from being mechalel Shabbos. Or if Reuven is about to worship avodah zarah, I could kill him to prevent him from worshiping avodah zarah. So, but the Torah says nar and nara, which tells you what? The only time you're allowed to go ahead and kill someone to prevent them from committing an avera is when that avera impacts another human being, right? But if the avera doesn't impact another human being, for example, Reuven's about to mechalel Shabbos, very bad, but doesn't impact another human being. Or he's about to commit an act of bestiality, doesn't impact another human being. Or he's about to worship avodah zarah, doesn't impact another human being. In those cases, halacha l'maisa, you cannot kill Reuven to prevent him from committing the avera. Incredible. So here's the problem. What about according to Rashbi? But again, we'll say, and we'll talk about this more in tomorrow's daf, Shabbos' daf. Rashbi actually holds that halacha l'maisa, if Reuven's about to be mechal Shabbos, you can go ahead. Sorry, I should say avodos kochavim. Rabbi Shmuel says, if I see that Reuven is about to worship idolatry, I could kill him to prevent him from worshiping idolatry. Wild. So according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, then why do I need nar and nara? The Gemara says, because interestingly enough, and we'll talk about why this is, but Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, tomorrow's daf, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai holds it's only by avodah zarah. So avodah zarah is unique, that if I see Reuven about to worship avodah zarah, I can go in and kill him to prevent him from worshiping. But that's only done by avodah zarah. According to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, nar and nara come to exclude bestiality. If I see him about to engage in an act of bestiality, I can't kill him to prevent him from doing that. Or if I see him about to be mechalel Shabbos, I can't kill him to prevent him from doing that either. Okay? To which the Gemara says, because I would have thought, Tisi Shabbos mechilul me'avodas kochavim. I'd have thought like this. Both desecration of Shabbos and avodah zarah both use a lashon of chilul, to profane. So I might have thought that according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the same way that I could kill Reuven to prevent him from worshiping avodah zarah, I could also kill Reuven to prevent him from being mechalel Shabbos. Kamash malon, no. Kamash that is only for avodah zarah, not for Shabbos. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, dar mechalas Shabbos, nitan sila b'Shabbos. Oh, so but there's another shita. There's more. So we'll say. So what you begin to see is that three schools of thought. The primary school of thought says like this: the only time you're allowed to kill Reuven is when he is about to commit something that is punishable either by death by bezdin or kares, and it impacts another person. But if there is no other human victim, you can't prevent Reuven from committing the Avera by killing him. That's the first school of thought. Second school of thought, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, I agree with that, but the exception is Avodah Zarah. You can kill Reuven to prevent the worshiping of Avodah Zarah. And then there's Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says, not only can you kill Reuven to prevent him from worshiping Avodah Zarah, but you can also kill Reuven to prevent him from being Mechalal Shabbos. Mechalal Shabbos. So he holds the Amar Mechalal Shabbos Tilat Zil Benafsho. Das Shabbos michilu chilu mi'avodas kochavim. Because Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon makes the Gzeira Shava of chilu. It says chilu by Avodah Zarah. It says chilu by Shabbos. Just like you could kill Reuven to prevent him from worshiping Avodah Zarah, so too you could kill Reuven to prevent him from being mechalal Shabbos. So Michael, then Rabbi say, according to this approach, according to Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, then why you need nar and na'ara at all? Because essentially, according to Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, anytime Reuven is about to do something that carries with it a misas bezdin, right, beth by bezdin, or kares, even if it doesn't have a human victim, you're still allowed to kill him to prevent it from doing it. So why do I need nara nara? To which Gemara says, no. The Gemara says, no, because one of those words we'll call nar or nara. One of them will come to exclude bestiality. That everyone will agree that if I see Reuven about to commit an act of bestiality, then in that case we don't kill him to prevent him from doing so. V'idach, I did the kasav rachmana nar, kasav nami nar. The other one is more for textual symmetry. That since the Torah wrote nar, the Torah also wrote nara. So also I say, interestingly enough, what you see over here, and again we'll have to see the halacha l'maisa, but essentially three different opinions. Opinion number one is I'm allowed to kill Reuven to prevent him from doing an avera when the avera A is either punishable by misas bezdin, kares, but the important qualifier is it has to have a human victim. Has to have a human victim. If there's no human victim, I can't kill Reuven to prevent him from perpetrating. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai agree, but adds in Avodah Zarah. I could kill Reuven to prevent him from worshiping Avodah Zarah. And according to Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, he adds in also Shabbos. I could kill Reuven to prevent him from being Machal Shabbos. But everyone will agree that, for example, an act of bestiality, as terrible as that is, if Reuven's about to do it, I can't kill Reuven to prevent them from doing it. Okay, incredible. We'll say a little bit weiter. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Af Omeres Hinichu Lo Shelo Yargena. So Rabbi Yehuda added in this interesting case of what happens if Reuven is about to violate the Nara Murasa, and we're ready to kill Reuven. And then the Nara says, no, don't kill him, just let him do what he's going to do, because I don't want to risk getting killed. I'm scared that Reuven's going to kill me, just let him do what he's going to do. So again, Rabbi Yehuda said, we listened to her in that case. So the Gemara says, now both say, now obviously if Rabbi Yehuda says we listen to her, that means the Rabbanan say we don't listen to her. So what's the point of contention? So both say, so listen to this. So the machlokes will be on the following. What happens if we know about this girl that she is makpedes on Gemara? She says, "B'makpedes on pagma, tibushein makpedes lo kamri rabbanan lemikdei mishum avera delo chamer me'avodas kochavim b'Shabbos." So let's say again, we know that obviously this girl doesn't want to be violated, right? Which makes perfect sense, and she is concerned about the ramifications of this act of violation. Right? So what happens if we know that she is makbid on the pigima, but we also know that she's telling us leave him alone? So what do you do in this case? Rabbanan savri apigima kapid rachmana bahari makpedes al pigima. So we'll say, so again, the Rabbanan said like this: the Torah is makbid on the covet of this girl, and therefore again, Torah says kill Reuven. And if we know that she's makbid on herself, so Lamaisa again, we're not going to listen to what she says, and we're going to kill the guy to prevent him from going ahead and violating her. Rabbi Yehuda, Haid dekam rachmana katle mishum demasra nafshlik tala. So the Gemara says, and Rabbi Yehuda will say like this: why does the Torah tell us to kill the perpetrator? Because we're afraid that if we don't kill the perpetrator, she's going to sooner give her life rather than be violated. So we're concerned about the fact that she's going to give up her life rather than be violated. Therefore, the Torah says kill the perpetrator. But in this case, where she's kind of telling us, just leave it alone. Let Reuven do what he's going to do. I don't want to get killed. Rabbi Yehuda says we listen to her and we don't kill the perpetrator. So if you look at Rashi says over here, the Masra Nafshalik Tala, Sheish Tsnuo, Shemos Natsalamos, Shiargena, Velo Tivalov, Amratora Hitzil Dama, Vidamo. So we'll say, so ultimately again, Rabbi Yehuda says in general, that's what we're concerned about. She's going to give up her life rather than be violated. But if she's telling us, no, just let him do what he wants to do, and I don't want to run the risk of being killed, we listen to her. So what if a Kohen Gadol is getting ready to violate an almana, to have relations with an almana? There's also a pegima. There's a genealogical blemish in that, right? Because now if she has relations with the Kohen Gadol, she can't marry a Kohen afterwards. So would we kill the Kohen for something like that? Amarle apegima rabba kapid rachmana, apegima zutalo kapid rachmana. When the Torah speaks about the pegima, like a blemish, we're talking about something dramatic, like naramu rasa. The fact that now, again, this almana won't be able to marry a Kohen, right? Okay, obviously it's ramification, but lamaisa, again, it's not the type of ramification that the Torah itself is actively concerned with. So what's interesting, I just want to point out, we paskin like the Rabbanan like this, not like Rabbi Yehuda. And even in a case where the woman would say, you know what, leave it alone, halach l'maisa, we would not leave it alone. In other words, we would take the life of the perpetrator. It's also important to understand, I would say, sometimes we see sugyas like this, and it sounds a little bit strange. You're talking about a woman who's about to be violated. So what exactly are we declaring over here? So remember, a lot of times what happens in Gemara is that it's what's called, there's an expression like halacha yevesha, just dry halacha. So dry halacha is just the examination or the extrapolation of concepts devoid of emotion. And that's what you see over here. But I just want to point out, halacha l'maisa, we assume that every single time a man is ready to violate a woman, chas l'sham rachmana litzlan, that is sakanas nafashas. Almost in the same way that halacha l'maisa, we assume that someone who is habama machteres, like we saw in yesterday's daf, is coming to go and rob someone else, that we assume that halacha l'maisa, that person is ready to kill the householder. It's the same yisod over here. A man is willing to use brute force against the woman to have his way with her. So l'maisa, again, we assume that act of violence carries with it a readiness to take life as well. And we'll deal with him as a rotzeach. We'll deal with him ultimately, again, as someone who's ready to commit murder. And as such, we are allowed to kill him to prevent him from violating a woman. Rabbi Yehuda is dealing with this interesting case where she says, don't do anything. She says, don't do anything. So what should we do in a situation like that where she says, don't do anything? So Rabbi Yehuda says, we listen to her. The Rabbanan say, we don't listen to her. We don't listen to her because it could very well be that the Torah cares more about her covet than she cares about her covet. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, we would do what we need to do in order to stop this man from violating this woman, even if it means taking his life. All right, we're going to stop over here. Shkoyach, everyone. Again, sorry that I couldn't be with you in person, but a tremendous chus to get to learn with everyone. Have a wonderful day and a good Erev Shabbos.